Hey everyone, Matthew here at Earthworks. I am in the shade section amongst the caladiums because it is getting hot. It is the beginning of June. We do get a lot of questions about, how to prepare for the summer heat. There aren't a lot of things that we can do, but there are some specific things that we can do. And I'm going to go over a few of those here in this video so that way you can set your garden up for success going into the hottest months of the year. The first thing to think about is irrigation. If you have not checked your irrigation system at your home in some time, the first thing I would do before summer hits is to check your irrigation system. It is a very vital part of your life support for your garden. So turn on your zones one by one, walk the property, make sure that the heads are working, and not only are they working, but are they hitting the areas that you want them to hit. There are many times here at the garden center when we have irrigation heads and sprayers that aren't necessarily pointed in the direction that they were originally set up to spray. So going over that, I'd say at least on a quarterly basis is important. If you have not done that already in the spring, right now would be a great time to make sure you have adequate coverage to make sure your plants are getting the water. Now, how much should I water? That is a multifaceted question. Now, a lot of it has to do with how long your plants have been in the ground. So if you have established plants that have been in the ground for more than 9 months to a year, your irrigation timer going off 2 to 3 times a week for about 20 minutes or so a day in the morning, preferably as or right before the sun is coming up would be ideal. Now, if you have new plantings, things that you have put in just this spring, in the late spring, or if there are things that you're going to be putting in this summer, you're going to need to go out there and check them daily for watering needs. All plants are going to be different. You can't treat all of the plants in your garden the same. You're going to need to treat them differently depending on not only where they're positioned, but also based on what type of plant it is. Some plants are faster growers and they're going to be using water a lot quicker. There's going to be other plants that are a little slower to develop and slower to uptake water, and you may be overwatering if you're not checking the soil. So the best thing to do is to interact with your plants. Your success rates will go up the more you interact. It doesn't mean that every time you go out there every day you're going to have to water them, but at least you're going to be out there knowing whether or not they do need the water or supplemental water on top of any automatic irrigation that you have. So interaction is going to drive success rates up incredibly. Making sure that your plants are in the right spot. A lot of times in the past when I was learning how to garden, I would pick out plants and not knowing much about them, and I would have a plant that might have preferred to be in afternoon shade that was getting a little too much afternoon sun. And no matter what I did, the plant was stressed out and struggling. I couldn't give it enough water. It just didn't matter. It wasn't in the right spot. So something we can do preventatively is just ensuring that we're getting the right plants in the right spot. If they're not in the right spot, pivoting quickly and then maybe getting them in a different position if possible. And the earlier we do that, the better. The other thing we can do is make sure that we have a adequate layer of mulch. Here at Earthworks, we prefer the pine bark mulch for lots of reasons. I'm not going to get into all those reasons right now, but making sure that you have an adequate layer of mulch to ensure that the moisture that you are giving your plants or that the rain is giving your plants is going to be maximized and not lost to evaporation as quickly as it would if the mulch was thin or sparse. So making sure you have a nice fresh layer of pine bark mulch is crucial to ensuring your plants' health. Also, above and beyond that, the plants that you bring home probably had some fertilizer in their pots. Hopefully when you brought them home, you then put some biotone in the ground. That really is one of the easiest ways to ensure your plants not just survive the summer, but thrive in the summer, because there is a very fine line between just surviving and thriving when it comes to our plants in the garden center. So preventatively, every hole you dig, throw a handful of biotone in. There are biological root stimulation, little microbes and mycorrhizae in there that are going to speed up the acclimation of the root system, the growing, the spreading of the roots into the soil, which is going to make them more efficient at their uptake of both nutrients and water, and give them a much higher chance of thriving rather than just surviving, or we don't even want to think about, but perhaps dying. And we all know that that does sometimes happen in our gardens. So the biotone ahead of time. Now, post If you did put some biotone in the hole, that should probably take care of the plants for approximately 3 months or so. After that, I would certainly think about supplementing. You can top dress with a slow-release granular fertilizer. You can also use a water-soluble fertilizer, which is what I prefer. I prefer to interact with my plants about once a week to make sure they're doing okay. So I will mix up some water-soluble fertilizer. Sometimes it's the organic fish emulsion. Sometimes it's the Jax fertilizers. There's a Bloom Special, and there's also just a 20-20-20, which is a really good general purpose. But regardless of what you choose, use it. You can use these water-soluble fertilizers up to once a week. And what's fantastic about the water-soluble fertilizers is that they are immediately available to the plants, both through the foliage and uptake through the roots. So during the hottest, most stressful months of the year, a little water-soluble fertilizer used as directed can give your plants an edge over the summer heat. If you have any more questions, please feel free to stop by or drop us an email anytime. We'll see you next time.